Welcome to the Vol Bros. My name is Evan. This is my brother Rustin, and we are two Vol Bros who are actually bros in real life. And the Tennessee Volunteers will take Shields Watkins Field at Neyland Stadium this Saturday at 4 o'clock p.m. in all orange. We're wearing orange shirts, orange breeches. Very excited. That's my personal favorite uniform combination. Hopefully the product on the field is better than we saw last week. Zach, welcome, buddy. Good to have you with us. He said, "What's up, Vol Bros? How are you feeling tonight?" So, Rustin, that's our first question that we always answer on preview shows. What do you want to see on Saturday?
I want to see three things. Number one, I want to see the offensive playbook be wide open. I think they spent a little too much time the first two games hiding things, and I think it hurt their ability to run things effectively and consistently. So I want to see the playbook be wide open. I want to see tempo be up tempo. I want to see them be comfortable running all their stuff, so that next week against South Carolina, they have a comfort level and a confidence in running all of their stuff. The second thing I want to see is I want to see our secondary compete. UT San Antonio is going to get off the bus slinging it. They know they probably can't run the ball effectively, so they're going to get off the bus throwing everything they can. I want to see our secondary compete, preferably with Danico Slaughter and Gabe Judy Lawley. I'd be fine if Kamal Haddon is not competing. That would be wonderful. And then the third thing I want to see with Reed Carringer, we talked about alignment and assignment. Defensively, a lot of times you can win the down just by being aligned correctly and doing your assignment. And I hate to single somebody out, but I watched it back again. A lot of our issues stopping the run were actually Elijah Herring. Rarely ever did Elijah have a play where he both aligned correctly and did his assignment on the same play. There were a lot of plays he was aligned incorrectly. There was a few plays you can see Aaron Beasley literally trying to get him aligned. There are several plays where he gave up big runs because he missed his gap, didn't do his assignment correctly. So, I want to see the offense run up tempo. I want to see him run the whole playbook. I want to see the secondary compete. And I want to see Elijah Herring do his job. I want to see him line up, fill his gap the proper way, and just do what he's supposed to do. And honestly, I think if we don't, I would bet Elijah Herring's grade when they graded this game wasn't very good. And I would not be surprised at all if we see him 50-50 split reps with Arian Carter. Because if he plays again this week like he did last week, he's not going to be out there much longer.
So the thing I want to see is people tackle people. That's what I want to see. And that means exactly. And that means that Kamal Haddon will not be playing. If people are tackling people, that means he won't be out there. And so that's what I want to see. I want to see Kamal on the sideline, and I want to see people tackling people in between the sidelines. That's what I would like to see. The other thing I want to see is I want to see a football team that looks like they care. I'm still very concerned by Aaron Beasley's comments after the game, after the Florida game, when people asked him, is this undisciplined, false starts and stuff? Does that surprise you based on fall camp and spring and summer? He said, no, sir. So, that's concerning because that means that if you care, you're going to be more disciplined than that. And so I want to see a team that cares, and that's manifested in how disciplined they play. Zach said he wants to see Joe run the ball. He said, because we know he can. And I certainly think that could open up some stuff as well if Joe does run a little bit more. Oreo Puppy Dog, welcome back. Good to have you with us. He said, I think the line breaking down could be why Milton is throwing screens all the time. What do you guys think? 100% absolutely. We talked about that Sunday night with Reed Carringer. Rustin made a really good point. He said, Josh Heupel's handcuffed right now. He knows he can't call deep passes because Joe was going to get pressure in his face immediately. Reed Carringer mentioned that, the first quarter throw to Squirrel White down the left sideline, Joe was like falling away, backpedaling when he made the throw, and it was still a really great throw. And the reason he had to backpedal is because he had somebody in his face. And Reed timed it. He said he went back and he timed it from snap to throw. Joe had 2.6 seconds to get rid of the ball before he was being hit. So, Heupel, he can't call passes where Joe has to sit in the pocket for a little bit. Now, this week, he'd probably be able to because, UTSA's defensive line isn't going to be as good as Florida. So hopefully we do see more passes down the field this week, simply because hopefully our offensive line can withstand, UTSA. Zach said not to jump ahead, but the South Carolina game is at night. Yeah, so Rustin and I are on record. We predicted it way back when, a couple months ago, that it'll be a night game. Sure enough, it was. Zach said, "Bring on the dark mode, baby." Absolutely. I would not be shocked if they wore the dark mode uniforms that night. Zach's going to be at that game, so that'll be really exciting. Zach, I hope you have an awesome time at that game. Our second question of the evening: who do you think will have a big game this Saturday? And y'all can let us know in the comments too. Who's your pick, Rustin?
I think our most consistent player to this point has been Aaron Beasley. And I think the style of offense that UTSA plays lends itself to Aaron having a lot of free running opportunities. So I could easily see him. He'll definitely lead the team in tackles. I could see him maybe even get an interception. I think he's going to have an opportunity to do a lot of big things. I would love to see Brew or Ramel have a huge game, because that would tell me that we're starting to get consistent on offense and we're starting to identify who needs the ball, and we're comfortable sitting in the pocket and throwing the ball. So I would hope one of those two would have a big game along with Aaron Beasley.
Yeah, if I had to pick, like you said, and Oreo Puppy Dog agrees with, he said Aaron Beasley, if you got to pick one person at this point, it's hard not to pick Aaron Beasley, because he has been the most consistent player on Tennessee's team. It's not even close. But I'm going to go a little different route. I'm going to say Dylan Sampson. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to say Dylan Sampson, because he did not even step on the field against Florida.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to try to make it up to him, essentially. And I think they're going to try to, get him some touches. And Duke can run. I didn't know this until I saw an interview with Austin Price, and Dylan Sampson, I guess, was a Vol Club Confidential interview. No. It was on Feinbaum. That's when it was. Yeah. It was on Feinbaum. Dylan Sampson was being interviewed after the Virginia game. And I didn't know this, but Dylan Sampson broke Eddie Lacy's rushing record at his high school.
Yeah, I had no clue about that. He's the all-time Louisiana high school rushing record leader.
You're good if you're breaking a record set by Eddie Lacy, and so I think he's going to have a game. Zach said, I heard that some people were saying that Josh Heupel doesn't care. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Here's what Zach is referring to. Now, as we all know, there's a lot of really well-researched and solid, great takes on Twitter or X, and people never overreact.
Are we talking about national media members now?
Well, what had happened was, after the Florida game, Josh Heupel's demeanor offended some Tennessee fans, because he was trying not to let his frustration show on his face. And by doing that, there were some Tennessee fans who got upset and said, well, clearly he doesn't care, because look at his facial expressions and his mannerisms. He doesn't care. And that's why people on Twitter were saying that Heupel doesn't care, is because of that interview.
which is ludicrous.
Yeah, exactly. That dude's super competitive. He wants to win more than anybody out
He
there.
might be the most competitive person in the entire stadium.
Oh, Zach's not going to be there. I'm sorry, Zach. I hate that, buddy. I'm sorry. Let's see. Zach also said that he thinks Dylan Sampson will have a big game. I totally agree. I think, like I said, they're going to try to make it up to him by giving him the ball more this game than they would have. So we get to the hardest part of this.
So we joke about Ollie Lane, but honestly, if Cooper isn't able to go, I hope Ollie does figure it out and have a big game.
Amen.
Because right now, his inability to get the offense lined up and call the block scheme is what's slowing everything down. So this is a good opportunity for him to figure it out and provide some depth that's badly needed there.
Yep, absolutely. Zach was clarifying about Josh Heupel. He said, there was an article calling him a kid because of what happened right at the end of the game.
So we are talking about national media.
And I didn't say this in our reaction show. I did tweet it out right after the game ended, but I thought that was odd what happened. And so I went and rewatched the last minute and a half of the game. Here's what happened in that last timeout. And people were saying that was childish. Why did he call the timeout? Well, he called the timeout because he was reacting to the childish move by Billy Napier right before that. Here's what ended up happening. Florida had the ball 2nd and 10. They run a play. It gets stopped. And they let the clock run all the way. They had 2 timeouts left. So they let the clock run all the way down. Totally normal. Totally understand that. And when they did that, they called timeout. That was their second timeout of the half with 1 second left on the play clock. Got all the time they could off the clock. Totally normal. Nobody has an issue with that. Then, during the timeout, Napier and the team proceeded to celebrate on the field very demonstratively. Then the timeout ended. So the referee spotted the ball. They started the clock back up, the play clock, not the game clock, but the play clock. So no time is coming off the game clock. The play clock is running. Napier let the play clock run all the way down again after the timeout, just to let his team celebrate more on the field. And then he called timeout again with 1 second left on the play clock, using his last timeout of the half. So they came back out on the field, 3rd down. They take a knee. Well, now Tennessee has a chance to get the ball back. So Heupel calls timeout. I would bet money on it that if Napier had just gone back out there after the timeout and not called a second one, if he had just gone back out there and taken a knee, Heupel wouldn't have called timeout. That was in direct response to Napier showing up Heupel and all of Tennessee's team by calling another timeout after the first one. That's all that was.
Mm-hmm. And, I would add to that, people were upset about the supposed late hit on Graham Mertz. Okay, well, Graham Mertz needs to understand how to take a knee, because either you take a knee and turn the ball over, or, okay, that's fine. You want to run around and run out the clock some, great. Right. But you're now live, and you don't get to take a knee 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage. You get your butt on the ground and lay down so you don't get blown up. Mm. And he's lucky. He's lucky that Amari Thomas just nicked him and didn't really hit him.
Right.
Because
Amari Thomas barely hit him at all.
Right.
Like, the fact that they even began to call targeting on that is absurd. And then they reversed it because they realized, oh, that was absurd. Like, if you go back and watch the replay, Amari Thomas barely even
touches him.
Yeah.
And, and think of it this way, hopefully Graham Mertz learned a lesson there, because the way he took a knee and the amount of time he ran off and the energy he brought to him as he was taking that knee, the angle he went down on that knee, if Amari had caught him square, that knee's gone. Like, he's having surgery this week. So he's really fortunate that he didn't have massive injury happen right there. And hopefully somebody on that coaching staff is telling him, hey, that's not a knee thing. When you drop back and run around like that, you lay down, get off your feet. And he's fortunate.
Zach said Florida is acting like they won the Natty. Get real. They were very, very, very happy. That is true. Now Oreo Puppy Dog makes let's see. Thanks, Zach. Oreo Puppy Dog asks a great question. When is Cooper Mays coming back? Oh man, what a great question. I don't think anybody other than the people in that athletic office know.
I honestly, I believe him. He dressed out Saturday. He went through warm-ups and they said it wasn't Cooper's decision. The trainers said no. So they said again, he's a game time decision again. So they're going to let him warm up. They're going to see what it looks like. And the trainers will decide if it looks right or not.
Yeah, I would highly doubt if we see him on the field this Saturday. That's just my opinion, but I highly doubt we'll see him on the field.
Yeah.
Oreo Puppy Dog said, I didn't realize how many players we lost from last year. Yeah, we didn't actually lose a ton. We lost some very vital players. Yeah. When we're going to really lose some people is after this year.
Yeah.
Whoa, man. We are losing a ton of people this year. That'd be interesting if we just went through and counted on offense and defense how many people we're losing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a bunch, a whole bunch. Like probably of the starting 22, without sitting here and counting them up, which we could do if we wanted to, but I guess we could. But without counting them up, after this year, we're going to be losing over half of those 22. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Of the starting 22. Zach said, I'd say keep out Cooper until South Carolina. I mean, they may have to, honestly. It'd be nice to get him a couple reps this week, but not if it's going to hurt him.
The only reason I would say play him goes back to the first thing I said I want to see. If Ollie Lane is not capable of getting the offense lined up properly, getting the block scheme called, and allowing us to run up tempo, then we got to get him off the field. And Cooper's got to do it because we need to actually rep doing this thing at our normal speed with our center who can call the block scheme.
Yeah. Tyler said Tennessee actually has a very experienced roster, and that's true. They do. We have seniors all over the place, especially in the secondary, and that's why it's so frustrating.
Which also says maybe having an experienced roster isn't always the best thing. Just because they're old doesn't mean they got better. Exactly.
Just because you're 1 year older don't mean you're 1 year better. Zach said next year it'll be easier because divisions go away. I mean, maybe, depending on what draw you get on teams. Like Tennessee's schedule wasn't overly, absurd. Poor Florida, they got blasted.
It's a shame.
Alabama got a tough draw as well. So, we'll see. So our last and most difficult question of the night, and everybody can let us know in the comments who's watching right now what your score prediction is. But what's your score prediction? Because just to backpedal here a minute, last week none of us were close. Not a single person was close. We had people predicting 53-3 and 53-10 last week that Tennessee would win, and I predicted 34-17. Now I will say this: if Tennessee, it should have been 31-29. That's all I'm going to say. But people will be like, oh, it wasn't the ref's fault, but 2 touchdowns were easily taken off the board. So let's see. Some predictions coming in. Tyler said 35-10. See you in QQ. So that's true. I will be in section QQ this weekend. Very excited about that. Tyler's actually sitting in that section too. So that's cool. That was a small
I will be
world.
in Dalton, Georgia, watching the game on my phone at a softball tournament, probably in the dugout.
Yeah, Rustin had a ticket as well, but just didn't work out. So Rustin, what's your prediction before we show all the rest of them? What's yours, and I'll give mine.
So Frank Harris is like Cooper Mays. He's a game time decision. I think he probably does not play because it's either their next 5 or their next 6 games are all conference games. And, the most important thing for UTSA is not competing against Tennessee. It's winning the conference.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
I feel fairly confident he will not play. He has hardly practiced at all this week. They're putting him in a walking boot every minute he's not on the field. So I'll be surprised if he plays. If he doesn't, his backup is a young man by the name of Eddie Lee Marburg, which might be one of the best quarterback names ever. I think it's unofficially also the name of a mullet. I call my mullet Eddie Lee Marburg. So I love the name, but unfortunately Eddie Lee Marburg is not Frank Harris. He does sling it around a little bit though, and they've still got some guys that can go do some things. I'm going 41-20 Tennessee.
So you said 41-20, is that correct?
Yep.
So this becomes more difficult now because, and some of the comments rolled in, I'll put them up here on the screen in just a second. A lot of them are in the 20s now, and I totally understand that because it's hard to say, no, they're going to score what we expect them to and perform the way we expect them to when they hadn't shown it. I mean, like the most points we've put out this season is 30 against Virginia, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think UTSA is probably better than Virginia.
Yeah, they are.
It's really a difficult thing.
We scored 49 on Virginia. It's 49-13.
Oh, I was thinking Austin Peay. My bad. I was thinking Austin Peay. And UTSA is better than Austin Peay for sure. It's really tough. And so when I come up with our score, what I think we'll score, then I got to think about, well, no, wait a minute. Is Kamal Hadden playing? Because if Kamal's playing, then they're going to score more points than I'd say if he wasn't playing. So
right now, UTSA, just looking at the numbers, UTSA is averaging 22 points a game right now. Tennessee's averaging 36.
And, they put up some points against Army, but the thing there was they had the ball a lot because Army was scoring a whole lot too. So there wasn't a whole lot of defense. So both teams had the ball a whole lot. I think we could potentially see kind of that on Saturday. But here's what I'm thinking will happen. I think UTSA scores 2 touchdowns and they kick 2 field goals. That's what I think is going to happen. Because our defense has, bowed up at times this season and held people to, field goals and that kind of thing. So I'm going to say UTSA scores 20 points.
I think that's a very wise prediction.
And thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm going to say we score
41.
Oh, you said 20. You said 20, didn't you?
I said 41.
Well, see, I can't go that high. I just can't go that high. Like I'm thinking 28 or 31. I think we're going to kick a field goal at some point in the game. I really do. I think that there will be a field goal at some point.
That's how you get to 41. We kick 2 field goals.
Yeah. The thing that's really so here's, I think, really the X factor. Will they let D. Williams touch the ball?
No,
that's my question.
Jeff Traylor's a good coach. They'll punt every one of them out of bounds.
And so that to me takes points off the board because I feel like, D has the potential to return 1 for 6. So I'm like, so that takes some points away from us. I'm going to say 31. I'm going to say 31-20. I know, like that's my confidence level right now. And I'm kind of even hesitant to go as high as 31 until they show it consistently. But I hope I'm severely wrong. I hope that it's 41-20 or like you said, or even more. I hope I'm severely wrong. Let's see. Oreo Puppy Dog asked a question about Cade Mays again. We'll come back to that. Some other predictions. Zach said, okay, last week I said 56-13. This week I'm saying 49-10. All right, so here's the deal. If our defense holds them to 10 points, that would be a tremendous outing for our defense based on what we saw in the first half against Florida. That would be a tremendous outing. Papa J, welcome, Papa J. He said 24-21. Sadly, I think that's actually a really good prediction because initially I was going to say 28-20. And I think that this is probably going to be pretty close to what we see. So I think, Papa J, I think you're really close to being right on it, actually. I hope we're both wrong, but we'll see what happens. Oreo Puppy Dog's prediction is 28-14 Tennessee. I think that's actually probably a really good prediction, too. I think that could very, very easily happen. Really, probably 28-17 may be a really good prediction because then they only kick one field goal. I hope we get more than 28 points, but I think we're probably going to end up at 28. I'm just figuring we'll kick a field goal at some point in there. Michael, welcome, Michael. Good to see. Hey, I want to see you. So I know Michael real well. We used to be in a small group together at church, and so he's now living not in Chattanooga anymore. So I want to see Michael on Saturday. 37-21. I think that's a strong prediction as well. I mean, that's splitting the difference between me and Rustin essentially right there. Yep. And so I think that's a good one too. Zach said 36 isn't bad. Like that wouldn't be a bad total number, but it's definitely not the norm either. And you're right. Like that's not what we expect now. That is not what we expect out of this offense. Zach also said D. Williams was faster than the Millennium Falcon. You can make the shuttle run in less than 12 parsecs. I think that's what it was. Oreo Puppy Dog said D. Williams trains with the local deer. I like that. That's good. That's pretty good. Well, let's go back and we'll answer the other question about Cooper here. He said Cooper Mays may have problems because he stated he didn't have any friends on the team. That's bad if that's what he really thinks. I mean, I don't know. I hadn't heard that. I know he's got the respect of his teammates because they know he's one of the best offensive linemen in the SEC. I don't know like what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know. You definitely want camaraderie on your team. You know, coaches work really hard to build trust and camaraderie among the team in the off season. So I don't know.
This is the hard part about the transfer portal.
That's a great point.
Roster management has become so complicated because it's really hard to build camaraderie. It's really hard to build culture because every time you have an issue with a kid, they just jump in the portal and leave. Now you're bringing in somebody else to replace that spot. If you look at the offensive line room, it would make sense that there wouldn't be a whole lot of camaraderie in there. Gerald Mincey's a transfer. John Campbell's a transfer. You know,
Andre Carrick is transfer.
Andre Carrick. Like they've got guys that are, you know, coming and going in that room. And Cooper probably was closer to a lot of the guys Cade played with than a lot of these guys, and they're all gone. And some of the guys he got recruited with, you know, are there, but they've been replaced by guys in the lineup from other places, and it's hard to fit in those kind of situations sometimes. That's honestly one of the reasons why what Deion Sanders is doing is so incredible. Like he's convinced 80 dudes that doing something completely new and different is going to be positive for everybody, even though half of them aren't stepping on the field. You know, but they all believe that this new opportunity they have at Colorado is the greatest thing ever, and they've all bought into that. And honestly, I would bet in the offseason there's going to be a bunch of schools calling Deion going, how'd you convince all those guys to buy into that? Because there's definitely a bunch of other schools that are not having that success.
That's a great point. Well, 4:00 Saturday. Hopefully we see a different Tennessee team show up than what we saw last week. But that's not the words you wanted to be saying at this point in the season. Go ahead.
Let me ask it in a different way. What's a bad day Saturday? What qualifies?
That's a good question. A bad day Saturday is that Joe is still having pressure in his face when he drops back.
Okay.
I think that's a bad day Saturday is we see Kamal Hadden pushing people instead of tackling him. And I know it sounds like I'm picking on Kamal, but I can't get the images from last Saturday out of my mind where he just runs up and pushes people instead of actually trying to wrap them up.
Yeah.
Especially, I know everybody points at the one with Etienne and the long touchdown run, their first score of the game, because that was horrible. I get that. But the worst one to me was in the fourth quarter when Tennessee had to get a stop to get the ball back. They could not allow Florida to get a first down. And the first play of that possession, Kamal Hadden's right there to make a tackle, and he shoves the guy. Dude bounces off of him, runs for a first down, game over. I mean, like, what do you want at that point?
Yeah.
Like that one play is why he should not be on the field. That's just me. Zach said a bad day is if we lose.
I think that's more than a bad day. I think that's massive issues.
Yep. He said, or even if we just win by 7. Oreo Puppy Dog said if the tackling woes continue, I think that's fair. Dester, welcome, Dester. He said O-line has to be better. 100%. 100%.
I agree with your pressure on Joe comment. I think what qualifies as a bad day offensively is if Joe is feeling pressure. If we can't keep these guys out of the backfield, next week's going to be a problem. And then the other thing I would say is on defense, if we continue to have alignment issues and assignment issues, UTSA doesn't do a whole lot of moving. They pretty much get out in multiple trips, formations, and stay there. They don't really motion a lot. So getting aligned should not be difficult this week. If we have alignment issues still, that's going to be a problem. Because next weekend, South Carolina motions a ton. They do a lot of shifting. They do a lot of motioning. We've got to figure out how to get lined up.
So Zach just asked an interesting question. He said, should they sit Joe just for this week and only get his mind right for South Carolina? I agree. I would say no, because Joe has to get in the rhythm of this offense with the starters going at full speed.
Yeah. We haven't run up tempo in the way we can consistently yet. We opened the game against Florida, drove right down the field and scored running up tempo. Then we get to the fourth quarter, get in desperation, run up tempo and run it right down the field easily. But everything in between, we're going at a snail's pace, and it's like, what is happening?
Yep, totally agree. They got to have him in the game this week so that they got to have him in the game so that the offense can start functioning the way it's supposed to function. That's the bottom line. Oreo Puppy Dog said, people are calling for Nico. Well, Nico can't do anything on his back either. If the quarterback is constantly laying on the ground, you can't call anything other than runs and screen passes and that kind of thing. And that's what Michael alluded to here. He said, if we can't hit some deep balls, I'll be concerned for the rest of the season. Absolutely. 100%. He said, seems like we default to running and screen passes when the offense isn't clicking. Yeah. And it's because Joe has no time. So they got to get the ball out of his hands quickly. Yeah.
And the reason you revert to running when you're struggling to throw the ball deep is if they're bringing pressure and we run a lot of zone block schemes, what you're really trying to get is they bring pressure. We just run them right past the hole with a blocker, and a massive seam opens up for the running back because they got caught in a stunt. So you revert to that when you can't throw the ball because you got to do something to try to get them to sit back a little bit. I think something he just said is really interesting too. He said Nico can't do anything on his back. I think something that people miss a lot of the time, Joe is a huge, strong dude. And there's a lot of plays, if you watch it back, he gets hit as he's throwing and he doesn't go down because he's a huge, strong dude. So because people don't see him hit the ground, they watch the fly of the ball, they watch the rest of the play, but they don't realize he just took a shot. He's just big enough to handle it. Nico's not big enough to handle it. Nico will be on his back. And that, I think sometimes people don't realize how much Joe really is getting hit because he doesn't always go down.
Joe's what, like 35 or 40 pounds heavier than Nico
40.
right now?
40.
So, I mean, that's a difference.
and it's
a big difference.
And it's mostly muscle. I mean, it's not just 40 extra pounds. It's 40 chiseled pounds.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we appreciate everybody joining us tonight. It's a big weekend because Tennessee has to play well. They just have to. Like, people are overreacting after the Florida game. I get that. I try not to. I'm certainly not one of these people like, oh, the season's over. No, it's not. Everything they want to do is still out in front of them. They just got to do it. Oreo Puppy Dog said Joe's getting beat up like a rented mule. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So this week, 4:00 game, SEC Network against UTSA. Let's hope that we come out. I love it, Zach. Zach said we went on Saturday and put up 100 on South Carolina. I love it.
If we start struggling, are you going to be the guy this time to run across the field in the third quarter, recording yourself as you sprint across?
I'll let Tyler do that.
Somebody did it at South Carolina, and apparently Reed Carringer knew him. So I think you've been elected. You're this week.
Yeah, I think I'll let Tyler or Michael. Michael can do that. But we'll all be in the upper bowl, so we got to let somebody in the lower bowl do it. Oh man, we so appreciate everybody joining us for real. We all know we love this; it's a blast, and so we look forward to hopefully Sunday night at 9:00 when we're doing a reaction show. Hopefully, it's a very different episode than this past week. Zach said if we win against South Carolina, he's going straight. Okay. We're going to put up 100 points, aren't we, Zach? Absolutely. I love it, man. 100 points on South Carolina. That's the goal. I just want to win, honestly.
Yeah. At this point, I just want to be consistent.
Yeah. I want the offense to look like it's supposed to. That's what I want. Well, all right. Well, we hope everybody has a great evening, a great Friday. Big Orange Friday tomorrow. Wear your orange to work. Absolutely. So we hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful Friday. And hopefully I'll get to see some of y'all at the game on Sunday or Saturday. And then Sunday we come back together and we are celebrating a well-played Vols win, not just a Vols win, a well-played Vols win. That's the hope. Oreo Puppy Dog, we really appreciate that, man. He said, great show, guys. This Common Sense channel will grow. I really appreciate that, man. We try to be, level-headed and that kind of stuff. So I appreciate that so much. I really do. Hey, text a buddy about the Vol Bros. Big Vol Daddy, welcome, man. He said every day is Big Orange Friday. Man, I totally agree. I love it.
I don't think that counts.
It's
every day is Friday.
And hey, Big Vol Daddy, you mentioned last time we need to team up and do a show. So you just let us know when, the volbros@gmail.com, and we'll make it happen. It'll be great. We love it. We'd love to do that. So hope everybody has a great evening. I think that's the third time I've said that, but I like talking. So I like talking to people and ask questions. So we hope everybody has a good Friday. I said it differently that time. And we'll see everybody on. Hey, there we go. How about every day is Orange Day? I love it. That's better. I think that's awesome. Wear your orange every day of the week. I love it. Let's see. Y'all have a great night. Go Vols. Absolutely. Go Vols. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody. We will see everybody next time on Sunday after a win.